Have you ever made a decision in the heat of the moment, only to regret it instantly? It's a terrible feeling, isn't it? That knot in your stomach, the wish you could turn back time. Today, I want to share a story that powerfully illustrates this. It's a tale about a king, a promise, and a single moment of rage that almost cost him everything. It's a story that will make you rethink every quick judgment you've ever made, so stick around, because the ending will truly surprise you. Once, in a kingdom nestled between misty mountains and sprawling green valleys, lived a wise and just king. He was beloved by his people, not just for his fairness, but for his deep bond with his most loyal companion, a magnificent hunting dog named Bhima. Bhima was no ordinary dog. He was intelligent, fiercely loyal, and had been with the king since he was a pup. They were inseparable. The king trusted Bhima with his life, and Bhima, in turn, would have done anything for his master. One beautiful spring morning, the king and queen welcomed their first child, a beautiful baby boy. The entire kingdom celebrated. The king was overjoyed, but his duties often called him away from the palace. One day, an urgent matter required him to travel to a neighboring kingdom. He had to leave his infant son behind. The queen had also gone to visit her ailing mother in a nearby village, leaving the prince in the care of the palace staff. Before departing, the king stood by his son's cradle. The baby was sleeping peacefully, a picture of pure innocence. The king's heart swelled with love, but also with a tinge of anxiety. He turned to his loyal dog, Bhima, who was sitting faithfully by the cradle. He looked into Bhima's intelligent eyes, placed a hand on his head, and said, "Bhima, my friend, I entrust my most precious treasure to you. Guard my son with your life." Bhima wagged his tail and let out a soft whine, as if to say, "You can count on me." With that reassurance, the king left, confident that his son was in the best possible paws. Hours turned into a day, and the day turned into two. Finally, the king concluded his business and galloped back towards his palace, his heart yearning to see his son. As he approached the royal chambers, a sense of unease washed over him. It was too quiet. The usual hustle and bustle of the palace staff was absent. He quickened his pace, his boots echoing in the silent corridors. He pushed open the heavy doors to his son's room, and his heart stopped. The scene before him was one of utter chaos. The cradle was overturned. Blankets were shredded and strewn across the floor. Furniture was knocked over. And in the middle of it all stood Bhima, his loyal dog. But what the king saw next sent a shockwave of pure horror through his body. Bhima's mouth, his jaws, his entire face was covered in fresh red blood. The king's mind raced, connecting the dots in a horrifying, lightning-fast sequence. The overturned cradle, the mess, the blood, and his son was nowhere to be seen. A primal scream of rage and grief built up inside him. His most trusted friend, the guardian he had appointed himself, had betrayed him in the most monstrous way possible. He had killed his son. Blinded by fury and unbearable pain, the king didn't hesitate. He drew his ceremonial sword, its polished steel glinting in the dim light. "You monster!" he roared, his voice cracking with anguish. With a single powerful swing, he struck Bhima down. The loyal dog let out a final pained yelp, looked at his master with eyes full of confusion and sorrow, and then collapsed onto the floor, lifeless. The king stood there, breathing heavily, the bloody sword trembling in his hand. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by his own ragged breaths. Then he heard it. A faint sound, a soft coo. It was coming from under the overturned cradle. His heart hammering against his ribs, the king rushed over and lifted the heavy wooden frame. And there, tucked away safely in a corner, was his son. He was completely unharmed, sleeping peacefully, wrapped snugly in a blanket that had cushioned his fall. The king scooped him up, relief so potent it almost brought him to his knees. He held his son tight, checking him over and over, unable to believe he was safe. But as he held his living, breathing child, a chilling question pierced through his relief. If his son was safe, then where did all that blood on Bhima come from? His eyes scanned the room again, this time with a dawning, sickening sense of dread. And that's when he saw it. Lying in the far corner of the room, behind a fallen tapestry, was the lifeless body of a huge, menacing wolf. Its throat had been torn open, and it was clear it had put up a ferocious fight, a fight to the death. The truth crashed down upon the king with the force of a tidal wave. The overturned furniture, the mess, the blood. It wasn't a scene of murder. It was the scene of a heroic battle. A wolf had snuck into the palace, aiming for the defenseless prince. But Bhima, faithful Bhima, had stood his ground. He had fought the wolf with every ounce of his strength, protecting the baby just as he had been entrusted to do. The blood on his mouth wasn't the prince's blood. It was the wolf's. Bhima hadn't been a monster. He had been a hero. The king looked from the dead wolf to the still body of his loyal dog. He dropped to his knees, his son still clutched in his arms, and a gut-wrenching sob escaped his lips. He had killed his most faithful friend, the one who had just saved his son's life. In a single moment of blind rage, fueled by a mistaken assumption, he had committed a terrible, irreversible injustice. The protector lay dead, slain by the very hand of the man he had served so loyally. The king's cries of grief echoed through the silent palace, a haunting testament to his devastating mistake. The king built a golden monument for Bhima right outside the palace gates. On it, he inscribed the words, "Here lies the one who taught me the price of haste. Patience is power." Every day, he would look at that monument and be reminded of his tragic error. The story became a legend in the kingdom, passed down from generation to generation, a powerful lesson about the dangers of acting in anger. This story, as heartbreaking as it is, holds a profound truth for all of us. How often do we jump to conclusions? We see a text message and assume the worst. A colleague gets a promotion, and we assume it was unfair. We react, we speak, we act, all based on incomplete information, filtered through our emotions of the moment: anger, jealousy, fear. We swing the sword of our judgment without ever checking under the cradle. The king's real failure wasn't his love for his son. It was his lack of patience. If he had taken just one moment, just one single breath, to calm his racing heart, to look closer, to investigate before reacting, the tragedy could have been avoided. He let his rage dictate his actions, and the result was a lifetime of regret. Patience isn't just about waiting. It's about creating a space between a trigger and your response. It's the pause that allows for clarity. It's the wisdom to gather all the facts before forming a judgment. It's the strength to control your emotions, rather than letting them control you. In our fast-paced world that demands instant answers and immediate gratification, patience has become a superpower. It's the quiet force that can prevent misunderstandings, heal relationships, and stop us from making mistakes that we can never undo. So the next time you feel that surge of anger or frustration, remember the king and Bhima. Before you send that angry text, before you shout those hurtful words, before you make that snap judgment pause, take a breath, look under the cradle. You might just discover that the reality of the situation is completely different from what you assumed. And in that moment of patience, you might just save yourself from a world of regret. Thank you so much for watching and for letting me share this powerful story with you. If it resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that makes you think. Have you ever experienced a situation where a little patience made all the difference? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share your story below. Until next time, be patient and be powerful.